one simple statement can clarify an important factor in campaigns, which is nobody campaigns just because. Nobody. Never. You never ever invest time and money in campaigning because you've got nothing else to do, or because you think you should maybe just do something, or you got time to fill. Without fail, any real meaningful campaign has a goal, a purpose. You're always working towards something that you want to achieve. So, knowing that you never just do it because, what's the importance of that knowledge? What's the importance of recognizing that you're campaigning for something? It's about focus in your head. You must, and I cannot emphasize this enough, you must be able to describe clearly and carefully what it is that success looks like. So what is a successful outcome for your campaign? There's a very good reason for this, which is, as you're going through a campaign, as things happen, you're very deeply emotionally vested in it. You really are. This is a big part of your life. You really care about what you're doing. You've put time into it and you've planned. Your mood, your spirits, your feelings will go up and down as you get little wins and little losses. And you will get little wins and you will get little losses. There will be achievements, there'll be frustration. And when that happens, your emotional state will go up and down. Your way of looking at the campaign will go up and down. And that can be very damaging for one specific reason, which is people, as you're going up and down, it is very easy to lose sight of what it is that you're trying to achieve. And this can go all kinds of ways. So for example, you can find that the campaign doesn't feel to you like it's going as well as it should, and you start to compromise down in your asks. So rather than a campaign for £20 an hour, you suddenly say, should we drop it to 15? And you start to bring your ask down. You start to change your perspective on what you can achieve. But equally as damaging is if you have a period where the campaign's going really well and you're feeling buzzy, and you can feel bulletproof, invincible, and you start to say, God, did we just ask for 20? We should have asked for 30. And then you start ramping it up. This is even more of a problem if you are in any form of negotiation, so direct one-to-one. If you're sitting across from a senior official, they do this for a living. This is what they do. They negotiate people like you down for a living, and you very possibly don't. This is not something that you do for a living. And therefore you're sitting in there, and before you know it, they can have you talking not about what you went in to ask for, but about some similar but cut down version of that, which is completely different than you were there for. And so you need something that anchors you, that just reminds you, no, we're in this for a specific. Now there's another really important reason why understanding clearly what it is that you're trying to achieve is important, and it's for the development of strategy. Okay, so if you don't know exactly what it is that you want, then it's very difficult to work out the steps which you require to make it happen. So I'll give you an example that I use quite a lot with the left. The political left's terrible for this. Political left, you will have heard many times say things like, let's repeal the anti-trade union law, for example. Now, whenever I come across that, I always say the same thing, which is, great, let's do that then. Tell me which act, which clauses in the act, are we striking them off, or are we replacing them with something else? And very often the response will be, no, just let's get rid of it all. But here's the thing, there isn't an all, it's not one thing. Trade union regulation is covered in, and other related materials are covered in different pieces of legislation, different acts. You can't repeal it all. Even acts which you think are largely bad, or a piece of something that you're trying to change that's largely bad, may contain within it things that you absolutely need. So you don't want to lose the whole lot of it. Now this is important because if you're trying to campaign for something, you've got to know what you're campaigning for. So if you want to take specific things and change specific things, let's just take that example and say, let's say you want to change the rules on secondary industrial action, say. But you can't get that by just saying we want to change trade union legislation. Now you're wanting to change a specific piece of trade union legislation, and the arguments become different. So if you're just talking about trade union laws generally, you can talk about the importance of workers. But if you're wanting to get, for example, secondary action legislation change, just picking up, you're wanting to talk then in terms of solidarity, and you're trying to do different things. Now, I used to be a political lobbyist, and I can't tell you this enough. A professional political lobbyist never goes in and asks for something without knowing precisely what it is that they're asking for. That piece of legislation there, that line there, change these 3 words to these 3 words. That's it. That can transform a piece of legislation overnight. It can turn it upside down. They know precisely what it is that they want to do. What that means is they can work out quite carefully how to get that done. So, for example, what you might well find, often with a political lobbyist, what you do find is if you make your ask specific enough, it's quite easy, it's much easier to get it. It's just these 3 words, just change these 3 words and we're happy. We won't have to do a campaign, we won't have to go to the media, we won't have to do whatever. And so when you know specifically what it is, you can see, actually, you know what, we ought to be able to just get this through without making a giant song and dance about it. Whereas on other occasions, what you might specifically be asking for is equally specific. So we want to have a £20 an hour minimum wage for this strand of worker. Right, great. So you've got a clear focus on what it is that you want to do. It helps you to make the case. So why 20? You can do comparators with other industry sectors. You could look at recruitment. So if this area is struggling with recruitment, you can just say, well, this is because you're not paying a sufficient amount in this. If you've got money, you can get academics to do research work on these sorts of things. This is why £20 would be appropriate for this strand of work, and here's the benefits you'll get from it. If you just say, we want a pay rise, or we just want this legislation to disappear, then you're fighting all the monsters. Whereas if you're just looking to shift the 3 words, or you're just looking for the specific number to be achieved, you're not fighting all the monsters. You have one well-defined monster that you're fighting, and that makes you able to develop a strategy, a series of tactics for fighting that one specific enemy which are most likely to work. Don't fight the world. You won't beat the world, but you can beat bits of the world. So for all of these reasons, when you start a campaign, before you get into any of the details of strategy, before you get into any of the details of name, tone, language, pictures, stunts, whatever it is, sit down and see, what does success look like? So be very clear about that. What does success look like? What does the world look like after in a way that it didn't look like it before? And have that clear. And it might be that this is really easy for you. Perhaps you're campaigning against an incinerator. So you know that success is that incinerator will not be there in the future. So that's really clear. But other times, the thrust, the general approach of what you're trying to achieve may be clear, but that the specific measures which tells you you've won, you've not thought through enough. Think about the specifics. It will help you have an anchor so that you don't lose sight of what you're doing on the way through. It will help you to develop strategy and to keep you focused on what it is that's most likely to achieve the thing that you're looking for, what's most likely to make that happen. But above all, it saves you wasting your time. You don't spend a year campaigning for something that you can't define. And when eventually you win and you say, okay, what is it? Imagine the other side says, okay, we've had enough. You've been running an amazing campaign. You're absolutely brilliant. You've kicked us around in the local papers and the community's all up in arms. What do you want? You can't describe it at that point. If you don't have a very specific ask at that point, it's all been futile. You need to know what you're campaigning for at the outset. Think of it as being both an anchor and like a North Star by which you can guide the rest of your campaign. Do not skip this step. You must know not just what you want, but specifically in detail, precisely what do you want. For each of the short videos in this course on how to build up a campaign, you'll find on the Commonwealth Campaign Centre there is a little worksheet which will recap the things we've just talked about, will give you the key learning points that you need to remember, and it'll give you a couple of little exercises that you can try out to put these skills into practice for real. If you go to Commonweal's Campaign Centre, you'll find all the materials there. Give them a shot, see how you get on with them, and if you've got questions, don't hesitate to drop an email, or better still, put a message into Campaign Centre. There'll be lots of other people with campaign experience who are there and who want to help you develop and build your skills.